This is the pattern I'm going to use. As you can see, it's only 4 pieces. You take each piece twice, and that's about it. It's pretty simple. You can see which piece goes where, so I quite like the simplicity of it. This is the piece of fabric I'm going to use. It's not that much, but I'm not going to need much. I got it from my neighbor. It was leftover from her store. This is supposed to go onto a couch or a chair or something to that effect, and she gets these samples and sometimes she gives me the leftovers if it's really nice fabric, and this is really nice fabric. It's a cotton silk mix and it has this, I'm not quite sure if it's actually damask, but it's got this nice pattern of olive branches and oak branches, so I quite like that. And it's so shiny. In a good way, not in a cheap way. It looks way shiny on camera though. This is the other side of the fabric. I already drew all the parts onto it. And as you might be able to see, I tried to make the most of the pattern that is on the fabric. I tried to make it look like the pattern is kind of flowing downwards from the shoulders. I don't know if this is going to work out in the end, but we'll see. This is going to be the inner layer of the jumps. It's some rather sturdy cotton fabric with a very smooth surface, so it's going to be comfortable to wear. And I'm going to cut those out now and put them together. So I cut out all the parts, and the fabric, maybe you can see that here, it's kind of fraying along the edges, and also there's a bit of pull in this area where the pattern is woven in. So I bought some really stiff linen fabric and I attached those with a really simple sling stitch just to reinforce it a little. I wanted to do just 2 layers, but no, I guess it's going to be 3. Although these 2 layers are going to act as one, so I don't know if that counts. Yeah, so I attached these so that the fabric doesn't come apart any further, and I'm going to flatten them now. And as I said, I already noticed, I cut these to be exactly the same size, very precise, but I attached them and already I'm noticing that the silk fabric, especially where the pattern is woven in, is kind of pulling at the linen, so I will definitely have to reinforce this further. And now I'm flattening it all because I really don't like this. I think you can't see it here because the light's coming from the top, but it's getting kind of bumpy because the fabric from the other side is pulling on it in various places, so I'm flattening it in order to work against that. I hope it works. I have attached everything except the shoulder straps, so now it's time for another round of flattening. And I think this time you can actually see it, how the fabric gets kind of bumpy here, because the other side is really pulling on it. So I keep flattening and flattening, and I hope that in the end it's going to stay somewhat stable, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. I left the seam allowance in. I thought about cutting that off, but I think this works. I kind of have a mark now here for where I want the bias binding to go, so that's neat. And of course I got the cat. I'm not going to do the cross stitching in the back on the seam that I saw in the image, because this is just really not going to work with the fabric. So I already flattened this part. Let me see if I can do this with the camera. So you can see here it's getting all bumpy again, and I already did this part and it's already bumpy. This kind of thing really annoys me. So I'm flattening this part here right along the seam. I'm going in from the other side as far as I can. Okay, let me see if I can do this one-handed. It's going to be interesting. I need a camera person. Really need a camera person, so. And now I'm flattening right along this seam. Saw that in a video about tutu making, and it really works if you go in from one side and then from the other. So, and now you can see why I like this particular cut so much. It's because especially the back and the side doesn't have any rounded seams, so this is really easy to do. It's easy to sew. By the way, I did all these seams by hand again with silk thread. I promised myself I wouldn't do that so much because it's so time consuming, but then I really enjoy it. It's like meditation. So, and I like all the straight seams. The worst thing to do is something with 2 layers and extra lining in a round seam, because they never turn out the way you want them to. And these straight seams don't give you those kinds of issues. So when I've flattened all of this, I'm going to check where I'm going to put all the boning, and I'll keep you updated on that. This is what the inside of the jumps looks like right now. I've made some extra seams from where I put the bits together. This is what it looks like from the other side. It adds a little bit of stability to these bits because they're going to be unboned. The only bones are going to be in the front and in the sides here, so I'm going to cut off the overlapping bits here and make a sling stitch. Maybe that's going to add to the stability. I'll have to see if that works out. And I haven't done the shoulder straps yet. This is going to come soon, but first I'm going to do this. These look rather nice now. I feel like they've gotten kind of stiff too, so that's going to help keep the entire thing in shape, but not too much. By the way, I'm using silk for the seams that you can see, and for this stuff I'm using normal cotton yarn because it's way cheaper. And I've already put in some boning on this side, again with the silk thread. And this is what it looks like on the other side. And I still have to close it up here and here, so there's still a couple of threads hanging out. And for the boning, I haven't done this side yet. I'm going to use this bit of cable tie. I'm going to measure it. Don't forget the seam allowance here, so this is where it's going to go. And I'm going to make a mark right here. Here you can see the seam allowance. I'm going to make a mark here and cut this bit off, and then I'm going to cut off these corners so that it's less pointy, and then I'm going to put it in kind of like this, and I'm going to push it all the way towards the seam on the other side, and then I'm going to make a seam here in silk thread, and then it's going to look like the one I just showed you. So the boning is inside. I've already closed this up and made it all neat. I'm going to leave this open for now because I might want to put in some more boning later. And I think I'm going to widen this bit so that the front part looks nicer. I'm not quite sure about this yet. I attached 2 bits of linen here. I'm going to make a seam here now, and then I'm going to put one of these against it, make another seam, and then the same again. Then I'm going to have boning on the sides here. So let's get started with that. So this definitely worked. From the other side it looks like this, and I'm going to cut the overlapping bits off and make another sling stitch, but I'm going to leave this open just in case I want to change anything later. I'm starting to think this might get a little too wide for me, so I can change that if I take the middle seam, open it up again and make a new seam so the entire thing gets a bit smaller. But before I do that, I'm going to put in all the boning, because you can never really tell how this thing's going to work until all the boning's in. So I've got one of the cable ties here. I'm going to use 2 more. So this is going to be very lightly boned. This is not going to give a whole lot of support. There's going to be 5 of these on each side in the front and 1 at the side that I already showed you. So this has just 12 bits of cable tie in it altogether. So, and this seems to be working out space-wise. This bit here might get a bit tricky. Yeah, so this is reinforcement of the lacing. This is going to be the bit that we're going to lace over, and this is where the holes are going to go. So this works out space-wise, so I can put these aside for a moment and just wrap this around, attach it with needles, and then make 1 seam here, and then I'm going to put the other ones right underneath, but first this one. This is what it looks like when you kind of cut off the pointy edges so that it doesn't pierce through the fabric. That's really important, because you don't want any damage done by the cable ties. And I did so using my Leatherman, which is a girl's best friend. Don't listen to people who say it's diamonds. Diamonds are useless. This thing, that's the shit. This is after filing the points off, so this looks quite different. I really recommend it, because this way the pointy edges don't pierce into the fabric, and you know, with the wear and tear that comes after time, you don't need little bits in the work itself that kind of make it self-destruct after a while. There's going to be enough wear and tear as it is. I think I kind of forgot filming the process somewhat around in the middle. So yeah, these bits are done now, and they kind of meet these bits on the other side. So that was a bit fiddly, needs a little bit of eye measurement. I started off wrapping the fabric around this one, then I made another seam, put another bit of plastic in, made another seam, put another bit of plastic in, and on the other side you can already see what this is going to look like once it's all nice and neat and closed up. And this is where the eyelets are going to go later. I'm going to use very small ones so that they, I don't know, they're not really really time appropriate for when these things were worn, but I want this to be something I can just wear for an extended period of time without having to worry about having the eyelets fray out. So I'm going to put metal in, even though it's not historically correct. And I don't know, but for some reason, go away, for some reason this gets bumpy all the time. Once you put the boning in, bumps appear in the fabric. It's a mystery, because they're identical. I measured this. I was very precise in measuring all of this, and there wasn't a bump before, and as soon as these were in, there was lots of bumpiness. Guess it's just something that happens. You can't see it from the other side, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to open these bits under the arm up again. Going to take in the seam some more. So this thing, I tried it on with the shoulder straps and it fits like a glove, but I want it to be a bit more tight so that there's a bit of a push-up effect here. So I'm going to take in the seam here, which is practical because I forgot to file off the edges of the plastic, so I can do that then. And yeah, let you know how that goes. I already finished all this. Here's the boning. I filed off the edges this time. This is the bit under the arm. And I'm just going to leave this like that. I could cut this bit off and just make another stitch, which is not called a sling stitch, that's just what I called it. I'm going to look up the proper word in the new book I got for Christmas, Haute Couture Sewing Techniques. By the way, let me just recommend that because it's pretty good. I'm kind of struggling through some of the vocabulary, as you might imagine, but it's a really good resource. It's pictures explaining things. So anyway, this bit here is sticking out and I don't like that, so I'm going to attach it to the layer of linen here, but not to the silk on the other side. This is a bit fiddly, but I will explain it as good as I can. I've already anchored a thread here, so I've got to go in really close and hope the camera is not too shaky. So, okay, thread is attached. Take the needle, a very, very sharp and small one preferably, and you pick up just 2 or 3 threads of the linen fabric, and you can feel with your finger if you don't want to turn the whole thing around all the time. If you've grabbed a bit of the silk or whatever you use by accident, because that's what we do not want. See, now I went in too far. I'm doing this looking through the camera right now because I don't have a whole lot of space left between me and the camera. Yeah, so this one thread is okay too. Actually, I want to make that too. That's 2 or 3 threads. Yeah. You pull that through. That's caught somewhere. Yeah. This is going to take some practice, and I think that worked. Let me check the other side. You actually can't see anything, so I did it right. Now you pull it through the seam from underneath, not too far in. It's really difficult with the camera. I think I need Google glasses or something with a camera that I can just look at things and talk and sew all the way. Well, that would be really nice. So, now this is kind of attached. Okay, then you move on a couple of millimeters, or like a, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or something. Not good with the inches. And this one doesn't really want to work. Yeah, I got 2 threads this time. Can't really see a whole lot, can you? Again, pull it tight. A couple of millimeters further, again through the seam. Pull it tight again. And you can already see, kind of like a zipper, it's starting to attach itself to the layer underneath. So this is going to be, yeah, I would say semi-stable. The good thing about this way of working is that the 2 layers are not completely attached, so if there's any pull on the seam or on the other side of the fabric, they can still move a little bit, and the seam here is not going to just rip open or anything, because they still have a bit of flexibility there, because it's just loosely attached. So it's going to last longer because it's not too tight. That's how it works sometimes. There are many very, very philosophical, valuable life lessons in sewing. Okay, I think you got the gist now. Let me just go in really closely for one more time. Okay, here, 2 threads. If you're really good with this, and if you don't have to hold a camera, you can just pull the needle through the threads and through the layer of fabric, but you need both hands for that. So I can't show you that now. Yeah, I think you can kind of imagine what I'm doing here. So this is a good thing to do with seams that kind of, I don't know, if it's sticking out like this bit here and it would interfere with another layer of fabric, or you just don't like it sticking out because that gives the fabric ugly bumps sometimes. So yeah, I'm going to do this with the entire thing, and then I'll let you know how that worked out.